Then it was Tuesday. Jeez, it rained today. That was fun. So a bunch of cars, we can't fit all of them in here, so they sit outside and get a little wet, which I'm unhappy about. I try to deliver these things clean to the customer. This one we received the oxygen sensor today, didn't have time to put it in. Received an AUC sensor today, no time to put it in. Cause for that, interestingly, is I guess he couldn't turn on his automatic recirculation when the car was in motion, which is bizarre. And the only code coming up in the HVAC or AC module is the AUC sensor, and they're dying left and right now. So about $75 buys you a new one of those. It's on the fan shroud down under the expansion tank. Might actually be easier to replace from underneath the car, but we have those ready to go in. More scope creep today. He said take a look at the right rear rub strip thing, this piece of trim, and I pulled it off. One of the clips was broken, and then all of the, looks like it's been off before and somebody was really sloppy putting it back on. The grommets got twisted and bent over and folded over themselves, so the whole trim was just loose. So we're going to replace the broken clip and all 5 of the grommets, which I've ordered today and hopefully come in soon. My 540 is back. Bumpers were painted either today or yesterday. They were drying. They're going to do some light buffing on them tomorrow, whatever they can do off the car. And then if things go well, I'll be able to pick them up tomorrow afternoon or Thursday at the latest, at which point they're ready to go back on the car. That will trigger the PDC retrofit, because why install them and not put the sensors in and not do the wiring? So I don't know if that's this weekend, this week, coming up soon, or if I ask if I can just bring it back in a few weeks or a few months or however long it takes to do the PDC retrofit. Spent a bunch of time on this today chasing the battery light. So we have that extra, or that other cluster in, which is my bench unit, and it's coded to the car and working well for NCS, no more errors there. And I thought, hey, let's see if the battery light shows up with that cluster, and it did. So the cluster's not the problem. Then I moved on to fuses 13, fuses 15, and 38, which someone in a forum said to check. Those are fine. I checked all the rest of the fuses in the glove box. They're all in their proper position. None of them are blown. They're the correct amperage. The only fuses missing that are listed as populated on that little white card in the glove box are fuses for things that the car doesn't have, like headlight washers, which I'm happy about. So I'm not going to add that fuse. Plus it only had one electrical contact in there, so putting a fuse in there won't make any sort of difference. Then I moved on to checking the starter motor cables. There's 4 cables on there, 2 8mm and 2 13s. I took all of those off, cleaned them with the wire wheel, cleaned the hardware, chased the threads, put them back on, torqued to spec. No difference with that. Then I moved on to trying the oil level sensor trick. Someone said when those go bad, just unplug the level sensor to see if that makes a difference. Tried that. Still have the light. Then I took my 8 coil packs that I got last week when the car was not here, and I changed the coil packs. 7 of them were just donors from other cars that I had here that we had just put in months ago before I knew this was mine per customer request. One of them was original. Cylinder 4 was still an original coil pack. So now they're 8 new Bosch, because Bremis are made in China, the Bosch are made in Slovenia, but at least it's Europe. So new coils in, checked all the grounds, of course some of the studs. They had been JB welded in there before for the coil packs. Those are real light studs that go down into the valve cover there. M6x1 threads, and the torque spec's 88.5 or 89 inch-pounds, very low torque, and they just hold the coil pack in place. So 2 of those had washed out. We can't really get a drill or tap kit in there, and when the valve covers are off, I may replace them if they're not cost prohibitive, or I will certainly take them and have them stripped and powder coated, probably black, at which point we'll be able to put them on a bench and drill and helicoil and fix them up and get them right. But in the meantime, all the grounds are tight, coils are new, start the car runs beautifully. Still have a flashing battery light. My God. At this point, I don't know what else it can be but the alternator. Even though we're getting 13.8 to 14 volts at idle, even with electrical loads. Maybe it's amperage. My tool doesn't measure amperage. Maybe it's not outputting enough amps, and that's why the car's unhappy. So I will be placing an order for a Bosch alternator. The only ones available in this market are the remanufactured ones, which is what this is. But I know they're hit and miss. We just found that out on Kennan's car. This one works. I don't have any symptoms, any problems with the car, minus the flashing battery light. So pain in the ass to do these because they're water cooled. Someone thought that was a good idea. So we've got to drain the cooling system, take the fan out of there, take the radiator hoses off. Hopefully the alternator can fish out without having to remove the fan shroud or radiator. If not, they will have to come out as well. We'll get that alternator in and see if that makes a difference. If not, this may be a sublet. We need someone with fresh eyes, someone with more experience to just go in there and figure out what the hell is wrong with this car. If that doesn't work, I may end up pulling out the passenger seat. It does not have twist issues, but my guess is it's been repaired improperly in the past. So I'd be able to redo that, pull the carpeting up. There's a big fuse panel under there with those, they're like glass fuses or something, really weird, big, thick fuses that bolt in. They actually bolt into this that's down under the carpeting under the driver's seat. So maybe there's an issue in there, corrosion, loose wires, something like that. There's no rust on the car. It has lived in places where there's corrosive elements before, but I would think I would definitely see rocker panel rust or just rusty hardware before we'd see water ingress all the way into the cabin and underneath the carpeting, but I suppose it's possible. This will go back tomorrow. We're gonna let that JB weld kind of cure on those threads, on those studs, and then see if we can put some torque on the nut before they start to turn again. But each one has at least, each coil pack has at least one stud that is torquing to spec, and again, they just have to hold it in there, so I'm not too worried about it. Put the kick panel or the pedal box sealing back in today, so the lower dash is mostly done. I'm not going to get the cluster screwed in until I get my original one back. I added a nice little thing I put on my M5 years ago. Underneath that engine cover is the cargo net. That's the one out of the M5. I put the new one in the M5 because it's new and it's a little bit tighter, a little springier. But I like to have that in addition to the straps just to throw something under so it doesn't bounce around in the trunk. We used IMPA to go through and bleed the brakes with pump actuation today. We got a lot more air out of the system. I'll get one more test drive in tomorrow when the roads are not wet and the car is clean. That's why I didn't want to take it out to do that today, but it should be done and ready to go, and hopefully the guy will reply and get picked up tomorrow. This one unfortunately got wet. We'll be giving it a detail, the 02 50,000 mile car. I've been waiting to hear from him for almost a week now. A little frustrating when people kind of fall off the end of the world and we have their car here pending. You know, I've got questions. Do you want to do this? Yes or no? I diagnosed what you want me to. Here's the findings. Would you like to proceed? And I can't get a response. The 07 Alpine White M5 today got a coolant bleed, brake fluid flush, front curved control arms. They were cheap aftermarket Chinese brand parts that were causing somewhat of a shimmy at certain speeds. I hadn't test driven the car to fully realize that, but under customer request, we replaced those with Miley HD arms. And then back to this guy real quick. He got an alignment today, so once we get the O2 sensor in, I'll be able to clear the codes, then drive the car enough that we'll be able to get it to smog. We'll get it smogged, and then we're ready for delivery. So the 01 540 is back. This is the car I complained about yesterday leaking from the timing cover. Got it back into their shop, the sublet today, and they got a look at it and determined that whoever the technician was didn't torque down the bolts on the lower timing cover. Who knew that would cause a leak? So they did that, brought the car back up here, put some gas in it, and now we're doing our final test drive as part of the PDI, the pre-delivery inspection. So I'm actually, let's try this. Down on the floor, because that's what I want to do at 11 p.m. on a freaking Tuesday. I'm gonna look for an oil leak. And the floor is dry. That's a good sign, but not enough. Tomorrow we'll get it up on the lift. We'll get a look at the lower timing cover, at the oil level sensor, at the lower pan. Pretty much everything we've touched on this thing, which is the majority of the car. Assuming things are dry, we'll put the lower pan or the splash engine belly pan back on, and for the third or fourth time, run it through the final pre-delivery inspection consisting of fluids, removing personal items, tire pressure, wheel torque, CBS data reset, final code scan, just everything that's got to be done before it goes off to the customer. And I am just now, after like 3 months, realizing that it's a shock. Look at that. It's got a dorsal fin. Is that what it's called? I think so. Anyways, tonight, Seinfeld pizza, orange juice, because for some reason I love pizza and orange juice. I know it's weird. That's just what I drink when I eat pizza. It's the end of Tuesday. We'll talk tomorrow, hump day. Night.